Yeah, I think the most important things on our platform is making Mizzou safer, making Mizzou more aware of the diversity issue on this campus, and trying to combat both safety and diversity awareness. We're also working a lot to try to, bring out the education, bring out the knowledge to the students about these issues as well.
Right. That sums it up pretty well.
Well, actually, we haven't been in MSA ever before, so this is never been senators,
No,
never really
yeah.
been involved at all. But we feel like that's actually an advantage, just because it
Never
brings us-
involved with Senate itself.
Yeah,
We've been
yeah,
involved
the
in
Senate
Mizzou
itself. We've
on
been
things.
involved in Mizzou, but it's really interesting because we do have a passion for this university and we do want to make a difference. And we saw this as a great opportunity to get involved in MSA and bring some fresh ideas and a clean slate to MSA in a time that they probably really need it right now. So. Yeah, you want to talk about Tigers on the Prowl?
Yeah, no, one of the initiatives that we kind of came up with and brainstormed about was a new program called Tigers on the Prowl. It's very similar to Stripes in the way that it's a volunteer-based student organization, possibly another auxiliary, but we're not entirely sure what the funding looks like for that. But a lot of it is late at night, you might be studying, you might be in Greektown, you might be somewhere, and you're not feeling safe walking back by yourself. I mean, it's a long way across campus, big campus, it's dark. So essentially what you would do is we'd like to get the phone number on the back of student IDs, and when you give it a call, and people who have been trained in like self-defense and awareness about things like that come meet you where you're at. You guys walk home, back to your dorm, to your car, wherever you're at. And so I know that whenever I was a freshman, we would sometimes walk back the girls that came over to our place and like were hanging out with us. We'd walk them back. So kind of the same concept, making it known in the res halls.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think this is really important. Like Nick, the MSA president, a few years ago, he had the Safe Track app, and sometimes I feel like that's a great idea, and I think it works. But sometimes, for one, it's not free, and two, it's kind of up in the air. You have to hold your thumb down the entire time, so things could happen like that. But this is a great way, student-led, and it'd be a great thing to put on your resume. If you're not really interested in being a Stripes driver or something like that, you don't feel comfortable behind the wheel. It's a great opportunity to still promote safety on this campus and have someone volunteer to.
Yeah.
Because even I'm 6'4", 230 pounds, but when I'm walking on campus at night, you're constantly wanting to check over your shoulder to make sure no one's coming up on you, and just having that peace of mind that somebody's with you and
right.
not having to walk by yourself.
And we see a byproduct of it is that as you get those volunteers and people that even though they might not be on the clock or walking with people, if they're hanging out with their friends or they're at a party, and since they are more trained in kind of that just small little things that might be that normal people wouldn't pick up on when it comes to sexual assault or making someone feel uncomfortable in a situation, that they would be more aware of it because of the training. Even though you're not on the job, in social settings, they might be more aware and be able to stop something like that, kind of step in.
Well, I think the MUPD, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I may be wrong on this, but MUPD, it's mainly just police officers that are doing this. I feel like this is an ample opportunity to make students more aware of what's going on, educating students, and then having those students volunteer. That way, that kind of frees up MUPD to kind of focus their attentions on other matters on campus, so that I know other crimes and things take place on campus. So freeing up MUPD to kind of do what they need to do, because
Right.
MUPD is one of the smallest police forces in the SEC. So I know they're 25% increase in 3 years, but that's going to take 3 years. So we need results quickly. So I think this.
And I think part of it also is that if I'm a student and I've had a few to drink and and something you worried that maybe a police officer, would do their job, and if you were underage or something like that, maybe you've made a mistake, but you want someone that isn't going to get you in trouble or just like get you home safely, opposed to calling a police officer where some people wouldn't feel comfortable with that, I guess.
and that's the idea behind stripes. It's all confidential. You don't, if you're underage and you're drinking, it's better for you to call stripes and get home safely than it would be to even risk your life or the lives of others getting behind the wheel. And we feel the same way. We don't, this is college, and college students are going to have fun, but it's important that they get home safely, and we want students to be safe on this campus.
Yeah.
We're going to hold administration accountable by just opening those lines of communication.
Yep.
I think it's important that I feel like a lot of times MSA tries to get too involved, and MSA doesn't have to be involved in everything, but one of the things that we have to be involved is holding administration accountable and making sure that they're doing what's best for students. And I think having the student voice heard by administration is really important. I think that's our main role as MSA president and vice president, is making sure students' voices are being heard to the administrators, because I heard a fact the other day that Peyton Hanna only got to meet with Tim Wolf one time, I think. So things like that, how can administrators make decisions based on this campus if they don't even know what this campus is going through?
Right. And part of that comes down to how will we do it. I think stressing the importance of having students on the chancellor's standing committees. Currently, I believe there's numerous open positions on committees that deal directly with legislation and different things that people use to make decisions about our money or about different decisions around campus. And I feel that not having those people there is a detriment to our voice.
Well, yeah, we most definitely with Chancellor Foley. I think he's a great individual and someone that really truly cares about the students. So I think these meetings have to continue, because these people are the real decision makers. MSA has a voice, but other than the auxiliaries and certain legislations, they can't do too much. But these administrators can. They're the ones making the rules for this campus, and having that open line of communication to where students' voices can be heard. I think that always helps as far as making decisions. I always look at the example, if you're not involved in a certain company or business, how can you be making rules for that company or business? You need to be engaged and know what's going on so that you can better the situation. Like I said, we're getting we're kind of new to this. When we're saying we bring a fresh slate and a clean slate, fresh ideas, we're true. I think they had the purest intentions as far as their campaign and wanting to help Mizzou. I think Gomez and Hanners kind of took their position as a way to promote their personal resumes and do that. And that's not what either one of us are about.
No, we both have internships lined up for the summer, and we're already heading down that road in our careers. And this truly isn't a way to bolster ourselves in our future in our careers.
Yeah.
So
neither one of us have to really build our resume. I spent a summer in Washington, D.C. with United States Congressman. I have a full-time position lined up for me after college. I'm getting married in November. So I'm not going to say that my life's on track, because I don't know if that's true or not. But I do feel that, the only thing I have to gain from this experience is helping Mizzou students, and that's what we're here to do, is help Mizzou students. Yeah, I think the important thing is it's a learning curve. And I said this the other day in the closed-door debate at the Man-Eater. Out of the 6 candidates that are running, not a single one of us has experience as the MSA president or vice president. So that's a new thing. And honestly, I was the state vice president for FA organization, which in Missouri has 28,630 members, closely around that. And I was the state vice president for that. So if we want to start throwing around experience, I'm probably the only one on the slates that have actually been part of a executive leadership position to where that's governed 28,000 plus people.
Right. And when you look at it, you talk about how knowing the ins and outs of MSA. I think that comes back to where you surround yourself with cabinet members who have extensive experience. Another thing we talked about in one of the debates was how MSA is at a really vulnerable time, just like our university. It's kind of, the trust isn't there, the accountability isn't there. And so having someone from the outside that maybe might not know how things used to work brings in those ideas to take from their cabinet members who were in MSA, and then bringing out what they're seeing from outside of MSA and kind of bringing those together in a good combination of kind of a revamping hybrid that can make a better MSA.
So the It's On Us campaign, it was unfortunate that the It's On Us week didn't take place this year because of the protests and everything. But Tigers on the Prowl is a major thing that we can use to the It's On Us campaign. I heard that 1 out of 4 women get sexually assaulted on this campus, and that's way too much. And it's just, I mean, it's disturbing to even know that statistic because it's so sad. But having the awareness on campus of, Tigers on the Prowl, having people out there educating individuals on sexual assault and how to prevent it, I think that's a great way. Also working with the RSVP Center, trying to promote them and, Green Dot, trying to help them better get their message across and get more students involved and educated.
Yeah, I guess it's not revamping it, it's just adding on to a current program that I feel is going to do a lot of good for the university.
Yeah, that's a great question because, but I think the important thing is you have to put your own political agendas behind you because, this is a diverse Mizzou. This isn't just all Republicans or all Democrats. There's a lot of different people. And as the MSA president and vice president, you have to put your personal opinions behind you and you have to make the decisions that's best for the student body. And if there's an issue that is best for, what you would consider a, Democratic issue or a Republican issue, I don't even know if those things exist, but you have to put those things behind you because you're here to help Mizzou and serve Mizzou. And your opinion may be different from what the actual student body is. So.
And I think, you'd be lying to yourself if you said that they're not going to affect you in any manner. I mean, they're your beliefs, and people who stick to their beliefs I have a lot of admiration for. But I think it comes down to we're being very clear and very open about where we stand on a lot of things so that the students know that, yes, while we'll do what is best for the university, and we'll do that, at the same time, no one who is worth their salt is going to make a decision that isn't slightly affected by their personal beliefs on things. I think they kind of already asked us about one of those, and that's the conceal and carry on campus. And that we talked about that at the debate on Thursday. And it's gun control is a huge debate in the country, not just local issue. And so I guess we've already kind of voiced our opinion on that. And the other 2 slates had the same opinions, differing from us. So I think that's one way.
Yeah, and I had an interview earlier with an individual, and they were kind of talking about this, and I emphasized the point that we may have difference of opinions on things, but we're not in office. We're not going to promote gun control or really push it because that's not our decision to make. That's the student body's decision. And now if there's legislation, because I know there's a lawsuit going on with the law professor with his conceal and carry, and so if there's something that's going on like that, and there's legislation getting passed, and the students have a huge concern about this, that's when MSA can step in and talk to administrators. Hey, this is what the student body is saying. This is how we feel about this, and get their feedback.
Right. Because at the end of the day, it's not our decision. We let them know what students are feeling like from judging on who's spoken with us and what we're hearing. And so it's not our decision, but it is our duty to tell administrators what we feel the students want. Yeah, I'll go. Well, white privilege is, the way I understand it, is the disposition towards a certain race so that they are favored or have a benefit in life or in society. And a lot of that comes from the way you grow up and the way that people have trained you to think about a certain situation or a certain race. And I think a lot goes down about white privilege, and you look at a lot of the demographic in the workforce, and in higher up there is a larger percentage of white males. And I'd be lying if I said that doesn't affect at all. And so I guess those people that have that benefit need to use it in a way that promotes people who aren't as privileged as they are to have that kind of immediate, kind of easy, I don't know if you want to say free ride, but more of a like initial response that's beneficial to them.
Yeah, I think the important thing when it comes to our administration, if we were to be elected, is to us, it has to be acknowledged. It's there. There is such thing as a white privilege, but at the same time, that doesn't mean me and Clay don't care about marginalized students and not trying to help them, because that's not us at all. We want to make sure that we're always there, speaking for marginalized students so that they feel just as included on this campus as anyone else.
Yeah.
Well, we just have to go back to the Tigers on the Prowl. There's going to be, it's really unfortunate and it's really sad. There's things that, even Tigers on the Prowl is not going to be able to prevent. But what we have to do is constantly work with MUTV, constantly work with Tigers on the Prowl and other RSVP centers and different things to promote the education, so that if something like that, like so tragically happens to an individual, that we are able to, step up and say, hey, this is not what Mizzou's about. And any person that does that and gets convicted, I really hope that they never come back to Mizzou, because they have no place on this university, because that's not what we stand for, and I don't think anybody on the student body stands for that either.
I think it goes back to the culture part that you said, that the idea that as a culture, it's frowned upon, but frowning upon something a lot of times doesn't deter people enough from making those poor decisions, and horrific decisions. And so changing the culture and making people aware that if you do something like that, it's not going to be a slap on the wrist. It's not going to be we'll do a lengthy, what do you want to say, and look into it, but it's going to be swift, it'll be just, and that it'll completely deter them from hopefully ever even thinking or even wanting to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I went to Italy on over spring or winter break for a study abroad program, and it was all on world hunger and food insecurity. And my personal opinion on it is we waste way too much food in the dining halls. If you've ever been into a dining hall, you see this, like, just plates and plates of food being thrown away. I think it's important that we work with campus dining services and other services to promote this. Another thing I was looking into was an alternative energy program, and this is a long way away because there's millions of dollars that have to go into something like this, but maybe taking that food waste, I don't know if you guys ever heard of biogas production or bioenergy. It's like basically it's a big plant that you throw, like, you can take, manure and things like that, and food waste, put it in there, and it generates electricity and energy. Yeah. And I think that'd be one way, that, like, if we were going to combat food insecurity on campus, is to maybe turn that into energy. Not only is it saving us money as far as that's concerned, but it brings people more aware of food waste. And I think it'd be lying if you said that there wasn't food insecurity on this campus. My fiance is actually writing a paper on this for this study abroad class, and it's on all campuses. And it's probably, frankly, because what's the cheapest dining plan is over $1,000 for a semester. Yeah. I mean, that's crazy expensive, and I know you can't really lower prices right now because, there is a demand for it because people are throwing the food away, because as an economics major, supply and demand, if there's a demand, there's going to be a high supply, which is going to rise the price of things. So it's...
Yeah, I think it comes back, and also at the same time, we both grew up on farms, so, we appreciate the work that goes into it, and honestly, whenever you see someone throwing it away, we can, even more so than a lot of people, go back to the fact of how much work went into and the prices and kind of a lot of the price points that go into getting it on the table. And so I think that gives us a unique background into that industry because of the fact of our childhood growing up.
Yeah, that's a tough one because, as of right now, we don't We're not sure, but something that we can do is, look into it. I'm writing the paper on it right now. It's not due till March 26th, so I'm a college student, so I'll start probably March 20th. But no, it's just something looking into the statistics and trying to figure out what kind of economic costs and what kind of economic benefits it will have to our campus. I know there's a lot of farms, like South Farm, that has livestock,
Yeah.
and because manure can be used for something like that too. Even if what if South Farm only produces enough manure to power just South Farm? Just think about the electricity costs that we're going to save right there. So, making sure administrators know about these situations and making sure administration knows that, hey, this is a great idea, came up from students. We can promote student education through this, and kind of have, what if they have like a part-time job, because they're going to have people working this biogas production place. So
Yeah.
having students intern there would be great.
And when it comes to funding, a lot of federal grants you can look into. And so even though, like Sam said, this is a far off thing, or if it would even be a thing at all. And so I guess the initial stages for us would be looking into federal grants and subsidies that encourage not only universities, but at the same time sustainability and reliability across the nation. Because I mean, it's a huge movement that across the country for good reason. And so I think both those coming from both sides would be a huge benefit.
I think the outcome of these forums, I really want to emphasize, is building trust with the police department, because especially in this day and age, there's a lot of individuals that don't trust police officers and don't feel like they're going to do what's best for the students. So being able to sit down with police officers, we can have MSA administration or MSA executive branch there, just having an open discussion, having people coming in, talking to police officers about, hey, this is why I don't trust you, and then working with MUTV on how they should go about, addressing issues as far as student concerns. So,
and it comes back to being comfortable and almost humanizing the police force. I know that a lot of people view it as the strict parent that just is looking to get you in trouble. But it's reaffirming that they're while they are there and you could get in trouble, first off, they're there to protect you and to help you out, not to always be looking over your shoulder, hoping there's not a cop there so you don't get in trouble.
Right. A lot of your platform replicates programs that already exist, such as self-defense classes. Which programs have you spoken to about expanding their presence, and which organizations have you not spoken to?
okay, I think the important one we've really reached out right now is the Wellness Resource Center. We're trying to make sure, because I feel like a lot of times when you get elected, you kind of build an ego, okay, I just got elected and I got all these great ideas and programs to come in and just totally scrap what we already have and don't really promote what we do have. So I'm meeting with Kim Dude, the director of the Wellness Resource Center, on Wednesday to talk about how we can promote her programs that she already has, like Gamma and different things like that, so that when we come into office, we don't have to worry about building up our own programs and our own agenda, but really promoting what we already have to students so that they know that these resources are available to them. I'm reaching out to Billy Donnelly for RHA, talking about campus safety. We're going to reach out to, or President's Hall Safety, sorry. We're also going to reach out to like the RSVP Center and just trying to, because with our Tigers on the Prowl agenda platform, or initiative, there we go, that's the word.
Initiative.
So just talking with programs, because Missouri does have a lot of great resources already, and just students have to become more aware of these resources. So just being able to promote them as best we can, because as MSA, we are the voice of students and we're the voice of programs as well, like that are ran by these students. So being able to promote these and get those out to students, know that they have them here.
And like you said, not scrapping them, and that's, I feel, gives us an extra incentive because of the shorter term, since we're only looking at 3 months shorter since our term won't begin until March. That kind of incentivizes us not to scrap whatever is there and try and work with them, which we were looking at prior to, but this just kind of also almost forces us to, which I think is a good thing.
And to add on to that, how do you know that programs like Stripes, Truman's Closet, and the other auxiliaries want and need more volunteers? Because I know Stripes turns away a lot of people that are highly qualified a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with stripes right now is the wait time. If you have to call right now, I think you have to wait almost an hour and a half on a Friday or Saturday night. So the big thing is funding, and I know MSA has a budget of around $1.6 million, and I'm not saying that they're using their money badly, but we can always look at different perspectives and try to reallocating funds to. There's also an endowment fund that's going on with Stripes. We're trying to reach $1 million. That'll open up a lot of funding to expand the fleet of cars that they can drive. So just constantly, working to try to better these programs so that students doesn't have to wait for an hour and a half, because I know a lot of students, especially if you're intoxicated, you're not thinking very clearly, and you hear you're going to have to wait an hour and a half. That's not something you want to do. So making sure that, like I said earlier, campus safety is one of our big things. So making sure the students feel safe and that Stripes can get to them as quickly as possible, I think is great. Yeah, I feel like the biggest issue is, neither one of us are in a frat, so we weren't really sure about like how it went about, but we had like the typical stereotypes, frat guys, they're all the time, trying to have a party and things like that, and that's just not true. And because if you ever look at fraternities and sororities, they do a ton of Panhellenic things and a lot of
good things for the community and
exactly. So being able to say like, hey, these Greek chapters are actually doing great things as far as fundraising and things like that for like, I know Mizzouthon, I know it's not ran by fraternity or sorority, but I know a lot of students from the Greek life volunteer their time to Mizzouthon. So being able to make sure that students know that fraternities and sororities are contributing to this campus as much as anyone else, I think that's important.
And it comes to breaking down stereotypes. I think it's also reversed. Not only Greektown stereotypes, but MSA stereotypes. The MSA is not interested in working with Greektown when at its core, those Greek students are students at the same time. I mean, a lot of the things that impact non-Greeks also impact Greeks. And so breaking down the fact that we aren't out to either limit their power or to infringe on their rights to govern themselves, that we're there to talk about things like student fees and other things that impact them financially, and being also their voice to the administration. There was a lot going on last fall about how the university would govern Greektown, and so just erring on the side of letting the university know that Greektown is independent, but they are still part of the university.
And they really do have a vital role on this campus.
Yeah.
I think it comes with a lot of responsibility. You're the voice for 28,000 students, and I don't know if it's a fear or not. It's more of just I'm really excited. I think what I'm nervous about is I'm a type of guy that likes to please everyone. I like to make everyone happy, and I realize this job's not going to be able to do that. You're going to make somebody mad no matter what, because this campus is so diverse. But I think the important thing is just realizing what's important for the students. So, I don't like to be. So I worked for Congressman Jason Smith this 2 summers ago, and I answer the phones a lot. And I got called a lot of names I didn't even know were names. And I think that's going to come with the job of being MSA president. People aren't going to like you. People aren't going to support you. And in my opinion, that's my biggest fear, is making someone mad. But at the same time, I got to get over that, because you're going to make people mad, and people are not always going to support you. So
I think mine's very similar to his, and the fact that you're going to make decisions that a lot of people aren't going to agree with, or a lot of people aren't going to like. I don't say a lot of people, but some people won't like. And I guess breaking down the idea, and I just want people to know, and I think it's ridiculous that the idea that if you disagree with someone means that you inherently hate that person or don't want what's best for that person, when in turn you might genuinely care about them and really do want the best for them, but at the same time you're making a decision that you feel is best for the university and for us going forward.
yes, we do. And I think we have another initiative that we're trying to bring in. That's the student-led diversity training. I know Chancellor Foley's on it right now, but Chancellor Lofton kind of initiated the computer program diversity training, and neither one of us believe that that's very effective. I don't think students are going to pay attention to a computer program. So what we're thinking is having kind of like summer welcome and winter welcome, the diversity training they have, but implementing that to where it's a more full-time. Freshman interest groups have to, the FIGs for Residence Hall, they have to have this training. They have to go, the Greek chapters have to have it at least once a semester. And I think this is a great way for students, not only to, as other students being taught to them about diversity, it's a great way that, opens discussion, because on a computer program, you can't talk back to the computer program. Whereas if it's student-led, it can open up more of a discussion. I think the education for diversity and marginalized students will really increase with this. I think the important thing is really emphasizing the importance of this, because me personally, I wasn't in a FIG my freshman year. One of my classes, it kind of correlated with one of them. I couldn't be in it, but I think the importance is realizing how important this education is, and really emphasizing and opening up ways of communication between RHA, like the RAs on campus, the hall coordinators, making sure that they're aware of this and promoting it to students, and make sure that, because I don't know, I wouldn't say like dropping a letter grade if you're not there would be the best thing. Things that have come up, and students won't be able to be there, but I wish there was a way that we could really better discipline like our students as far as that's concerned, to make sure that they're doing everything in their power to make sure they get there. Yeah, so are you talking disabilities as like wheelchair accessibility and things like that?
Abilities or disabilities? I'm sorry. Did you?
It says different abilities.
Yeah.
Different abilities. Okay.
Disability isn't the correct.
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay,
I didn't hear what you said. Yeah.
Yeah, so I always like to make it kind of personal in a question like this. My grandfather, he's in a wheelchair, and he at home, and he's no longer able to go to church where he likes to go to church because they're not wheelchair accessible. And my mom, she has lupus, so she's no longer able to walk anymore, or she can walk, but she can't go like long distances or anything like that. So I've always been kind of aware of situations like that. So being able to promote that, I think they got the wheelchair basketball tournaments. I think those are so fun to watch. So those are awesome. But being able to promote to administrators, hey, like Mumford Hall, for instance. I think there's a
lift there. Yeah.
There's a lift,
yeah.
But it's not. We can make it more accessible to students, because well, you would have to sit on the front row in Mumford 133,
Yeah.
and you wouldn't even have a desk there. So
right. I think it comes down to there's a lot, and it goes far beyond even like a wheelchair. I mean, there's a lot of different abilities around campus, and when you're looking at, I realize we've come a long way in accessibility for a wide array of things, but I guess doing some checks, bringing out in outside sources that are expertise in the area of analyzing what resources you have available and not available, and what you need to have, and kind of evaluating. Because my mindset is, I'm not going to know everything, and people that are surrounded and get comfortable with things don't know what's going on all the time. And so bringing in a fresh mind, a fresh perspective from outside the university to analyze what we have, and also asking the people that are here, where do you struggle on a certain daily basis, and getting their feedback, because ultimately it's affecting their lives directly.
Well, for me, I actually wanted to run in the last election, but I knew I wanted Clay to be my vice president candidate, because me and Clay get along very well and we work well together. And at the time, it just didn't work out for either one of us. I was planning a proposal, and if anyone has ever proposed to the love of your life, you want it to be perfect. And then with classes and work schedule, it just didn't work out for us. And then when I was in Italy, someone asked me what was my biggest regret, and I'm not kidding. I literally said my biggest regret was not running for MSA president or vice president. And when I got back, I saw that what had happened on I was thinking it was January 28th when they had that full Senate and they had to resign. I was like, is this not like some kind of sign? Like, I just talked about how it was my biggest regret, and then this opens up. So I remember sitting around eating dinner, eating spaghetti one night, because that's one of the few things I can cook. I was like, I looked at Samantha and I said, this is this is a chance for me to really make a difference on this campus. So it was that night that I was like, well, why not,
Yeah. And that's pretty much how he approached me was he comes over, he goes, Clay, can I come over and talk about something? I'm like, yeah, sure. And so he gets there and he leads off with, so I was in Italy, and they asked me a question, and going down the line how he, and I always knew he had a passion for it and wanted to do it. And not that I didn't have the passion for Mizzou, but I didn't have an incentive to really take that extra leap. And so after a lot of things that happened last fall, a lot of students on both sides that both felt like their voices weren't heard, and how I saw that disconnect between administration and the students. I guess all of that kind of led up to my diminished, I guess, not trust, but love for Mizzou, and the fact that I grew up a Mizzou fan and I loved the university, and I was seeing it in a different light, and I didn't like the way it was being portrayed, and also the way it was representing itself. And so the need and desire to want to change that and make it better and restore it to the point where I used to love Mizzou and think that it was the best university around.
Well, like I said earlier, as far as the MSA president and vice president, there's no one running that has experience as being the MSA president and vice president. It's a learning curve, but I do have leadership experience. Both of us have leadership experience. I was the Shears Hall president my freshman year, and like I said earlier, I was the state vice president for Missouri FFA. So, I know how to lead a large student organization, and I feel like I'm qualified because I do have a passion for Mizzou, and some people might not feel like that's a qualification, but I think it totally is. Having a passion and a love for what you're doing, I think is one of your number one qualifications. I love Mizzou, and I have a passion to see, it succeed. So I feel like I'm qualified for the position.
And I think a lot of things you've done, your past, your track record definitely plays into how others see you as qualified. And I think it does play into how you're qualified, but a lot of it comes back down to our beliefs and our convictions and how we deal with people and how we want to see others succeed and want others to feel comfortable and safe on a campus. And so it comes back down to myself as a human being and my care and love for everyone at Mizzou, and not just everyone at Mizzou, but just everyone in humanity as a whole. And so your desire to everyone to be safe, to be secure, for everyone to really appreciate where they're going to school. And I mean, we're paying a lot of money to be here, and if you're paying that money and you probably come here more for just an education because you thought it was a good school, I want every student to have that same level of appreciation for Mizzou.
Yeah, well, we kind of hit on it earlier about reaching out to different organizations. I think as MSA, one of our main responsibilities is making sure we're promoting what we already have, with the different auxiliaries and the different student organizations. So we've kind of hit on it a lot today, just being able to open those lines of communications and better promoting that to the students.
Yeah, and I think it's letting them know what we think and also what other people are thinking, because when you say partnering with, it doesn't mean one overrides the other one, because that's not what a partnership is. A partnership is dialogue and bouncing ideas off each other, which I guess is what we would do and kind of bring to the table with them.
Yeah, well, for us, we'd never been involved in MSA before. We've said that 100 times already, but I think a lot of the Greek community is kind of tired of MSA overstepping their boundaries and coming and trying to control Greek life. And I think for us, we're clean slate, fresh ideas. We can come speak with you guys what your concerns are and what you think we should do before we're ever influenced by the MSA organization itself. Being able to relate with them, saying, "Hey guys, you have issues. I understand you have issues. What can we do as MSA to help you guys without overstepping our boundaries?" Because we know you have your own governing system with IFC and different things like that, to work together so that it's more of a, when you need us, we will be there, and if you don't want us in a certain situation, we don't have to be involved in a certain situation. So
yeah, and that goes back to the stereotype question you asked earlier, that there's a stereotype there that MSA is just trying to overstep their bounds and reach further out and control more of campus. And just the sole fact that we haven't been involved with an organization they feel is trying to overstep their bounds, maybe that alleviates some of that concern that they have with us trying to do and carry on the agenda that's currently been there, when honestly we don't have an agenda coming in from the previous administration or the institution itself.
Yeah, for us, is talking about campus safety. I don't think there's a Greek chapter out there that doesn't want campus to be safer, and I think that's something that, like you were talking about the stereotypes earlier. I feel like sometimes stereotypes is, the Greek life doesn't really care about campus safety. They don't really want, they're just here to have a good time and that's it, and that's not true. And what we want to do is make sure that that we allow Greektown to know these initiatives are out there, and we want them to improve. And just being able to help campus and Greek life come together as one united, or one student body united as one, to try to promote these different safety matters. Well, for me, and I've said this a couple times now, is don't look at our experience in MSA, look at our potential in leading this organization. We really do care about this university, and we really do have a passion for the students, and we really are here for the right reasons. Like I said earlier, we're not here to promote our resumes because we have positions already. And I'm getting married in the fall, in November. So like I said earlier, the only reason why we are here is to help Mizzou students, and that's what we really want to amplify to students, is that we're here for them, and that we want to make this campus the best campus we've had ever.
And I mentioned earlier how I grew up a Mizzou fan. Both my parents went here, and I come from a long line of people who came to Mizzou, and so I have this immense pride. And I mean, to me, there was no other college or school outside of this, and how my not pride hasn't diminished, but there is a little bit of doubt that creeps in about whether or not it's as great and as strong of a university as it once was. And my desire and love for Mizzou, I think, fuels me to bring it back so that everyone sees it the way I did when I was 10, 12 years old in high school and saw the school as the pinnacle of the place you wanted to come to school. Yeah, I mean, and it might go back to my perception of what I thought in my mind what I saw Mizzou as. I'm not talking about where we're ranked as a football team and things like that, but I guess whenever CNN and other large news organizations have to come because there is a problem and there's a disconnect and students that are unhappy, I see that as a great thing that students are initiating that kind of change, but also at the same time that there is a real deficit of resolution that led to the point where a large news had to cover it to draw enough attention to it. And so I guess it's not as much a tangible thing, but it's more of just a feeling of pride for the school.
I think when we're talking about this, is what we really want to do is move Mizzou forward. We saw the issues last fall, and those are issues that needed to be brought to the light. And now that they're here, now it's about finding solutions to those issues and moving Mizzou forward.